Welcome back to World Traveler Cooking, where we cover interesting cuisines and interesting foods from around the world. Now, in the past I've made dark Lithuanian rye. We're going to make a variation on that today. Keep in mind this is a multi-day process, so get started early. We have 4 ingredients. Water, which I haven't put out here yet. Sourdough starter, if you have it. I have a video on doing sourdough starter, which I'll link to down below. But keep in mind the preferment can be your sourdough starter. So if you don't have any, just go ahead and get started and expect it'll take a few more days. Then, of course, we have rye flour, and we have potato. I'm going to use 1/4 kilogram of potatoes here, but you can experiment with the amounts. So we're going to start today by starting our preferment. Now, if you're working with a sourdough starter, it should be ready by the next morning. If you're not, be prepared for it to take an extra 3 or 4 days. So let's get started. To 140 grams of rye flour, I'm going to add 240 grams of water. Adding a bit more here. And a little more. So there we are. Well, that's 250 and a little more. So that'll have to do. And into this we'll add the rye sourdough starter. And we'll just stir this up nicely, get rid of any lumps. And then I'll just cover this and we'll be back tomorrow. So at some point it should become pretty foamy like this. If you don't have a starter, this can take several days. If you do, it can happen very quickly, like in this case overnight. And now I'm going to add 280 grams of rye flour and 140 grams of water. And 140 grams. That's not quite enough. Yeah, there we are. 140 grams of water. And we'll stir this together. You can use a whisk if you like. I'm just going to use a spoon. So now we're going to boil our potato until it's fork tender, and we're going to cool it. We want it to be cool before we get to the next stage, so we start this right after we add the second stage of flour. So after something like 8 hours, we now have what looks like a very nicely puffy dough. That's great. We're going to add our last batch of flour, and I'm actually going to crush this a little bit because of the fact that it's been so lumpy. Again, 280 grams if we like. Well, it's a little less than that, but I have some potato here. So next we'll rice the potato and then we'll add the water. So I'm going to rice the potatoes here. Sorry about the noise of the rain. I just took a little bit of the underlying rye dough out for the starter. So now I'm going to add, I want to start with about 140 milliliters. Well, I put a little more in than that. Hopefully this should be good. Of water, I put in like 190. This looks like it'll be fine though. This is interesting. The consistency is quite different. And I'm going to set this up well, and I'm just going to put it in my loaf pans to proof. So after these have properly risen, you'll start to see little holes poke through. That's just where the bubbles are coming out, and that's when we know it's ready to go in the oven. So I've already preheated the oven to 180 Celsius, and we'll be back when these are darkened and a little bouncy. So these are now out of the oven, and they are definitely a bit bouncy. They've also sprung up a little bit, which is nice to see. And so we'll take these out, cut a piece off in a few minutes, and do a taste test. So now for the taste test. Now I've been a fan of Lithuanian sourdough rye for a long time. It's one of my favorite breads to make. This one, with the addition of the potatoes, will be something a little different. Looking forward to trying this, so yeah. So, it's just a little sticky, probably just because I cut it early on. Maybe I need to let it cool down a little bit more first. But besides that, it's actually really light and fluffy. It's much lighter and fluffier than any of the other sourdough ryes that I've tried to make in this regard. The flavor is just a little more mild, but you still get a lot of that just sort of wonderful tanginess from the sourdough, the flavors of the rye. They're all really there. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have anything to say about this, please let me know in the comments below. Recipes in the description. Bon appetit, and see you next week.